Hello, everyone, and welcome. Let's start our satsang today with a prayer together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Guru Preceptors, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, beloved Master Paramhansa Yoganandaji, saints of all religions, we bow at thy feet. And we ask thy blessings on this satsang, on our attunement with thee. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Let's start today with the song and then an excerpt from a talk by Swami Kriyanandaji on this topic of following the guidance of the Guru.
In India there lived by the banks of a stream a hermit whose prayers chose applause for their theme. He gazed at the flowers and he smiled at the sun. Then he clapped with delight, Lord, he cried, oh, well done. Well done, Lord, oh, very well done. The mountains that laugh with the gypsy clowns, the fields smile to welcome the sun, all nature sings praises aloud. The fields smile to welcome the sun, all nature sings praises aloud. The trees dance to show their elation, a day on God's earth has begun. And every true heart in creation in speechless wonder is bowed. And every true heart in creation in speechless wonder is bowed. Well done, Lord, oh very well done. The joy that you've planted in children's hearts, the thrill known in bearing a son, the hope when a trial departs. The thrill known in bearing a son, the hope when a trial departs. The gladness of men in their neighbors, of youth in its victories won. Our joys are the proof of your labors. How wonderful, Lord, are your arts. Our joys are the proof of your labors. How wonderful, Lord, are your arts. Well done, Lord, oh, very well done. At last I discovered the mystic key. The world's joy, oh secretive one, replies to your sweetness in me. The world's joy, oh secretive one, replies to your sweetness in me. For here in my heart lies the answer, your love shedding light like the sun. All life seems to leap like a dancer, when gazing I see only thee. All life seems to leap like a dancer, when gazing I see only thee.
When you read Master's teachings in his different books, in his lessons, you find that he gives general teachings for everyone. It was amazing to us how much he dwelt in person with the disciples on the question, as I said here, of attunement. What is attunement? If it's so important, what does it really mean? It does not mean being a yes man. It does not mean just absolutely absorbing without thinking what he said. I think it's very important to think through what he said, to try to understand the inner meaning, because so often behind his words there were other meanings. I've often given you an illustration of the way he taught, because he did not do the way you would expect one to do, who was your teacher, sit you down, perhaps on the other side of a desk, or perhaps lying down on a psychiatrist's couch or something or other, and say, now listen, do you remember when you did such and such, and do you see what that means? And he didn't talk like that at all. Often it would be just a word. There was this one time when he asked me a question about astronomy. I had wanted to be an astronomer when I was young, and so I thought, well, he was just asking for information. So he said, well, what keeps the Earth from merging in the sun? And I said, well, that's its centrifugal force that makes it keep wanting to spin out into space. And he paused a moment. I thought, well, I guess he's understood that one. And then he said, well, in that case, why doesn't it fly out into space? I said, well, that's the magnetic power of the sun. It's gravitational pull which keeps it bound by centripetal force to the orbit, to orbiting around the sun. He didn't say anything. You'd think he would have said, now you see what that means? 1, 2, 3. Nothing. About 6 months later, I thought, wait a minute. He was speaking an allegory of the soul and God. That we don't merge back into God because of our desires, our worldly impulses, our thoughts of doing this and doing that. And yet we can't get away from God no matter how we try, because his love is always there in the heart, always pulling. You can't get away from him, and yet how hard people try. But what a wonderful way to teach. He made you meet him halfway.
Welcome again, everyone. I like to start with a brief reading from Autobiography of a Yogi, Years in My Master's Hermitage. I always thrilled at the touch of Sri Yukteswar's holy feet. Yogis teach that a disciple is spiritually magnetized by reverent contact with the master. A subtle current is generated. The devotee's undesirable habit mechanisms in the brain are often cauterized. The groove of his worldly tendencies beneficially disturbed. Momentarily, at least, he may find the secret veils of Maya lifting and glimpse the reality of bliss. My whole body responded with the liberating glow whenever I knelt in the Indian fashion before my guru. Even when Lahiri Mahashaya was silent, Master told me, or when he conversed on other than strictly religious topics, I discovered that nonetheless, he had transmitted to me ineffable knowledge. Sri Yukteswar affected me similarly. If I entered the hermitage in a worried or indifferent frame of mind, my attitude imperceptibly changed. A healing calm descended at mere sight of my guru. Every day with him was a new experience in joy, peace, and wisdom. We have to realize that guidance is mainly inner, training is mainly inside of ourselves. As we attune more deeply to Guru, to God, to our dear and beloved masters, then we are changing inside of ourselves. We're being guided, we're being led, we're being protected, we're being helped along the path to be able to discover who and what we really are. And that guidance comes through, yes, you can study, but it's mainly a transference of the Guru's blessings and grace, experience of God, his wisdom, his joy. And one has to be open to be able to receive that. It also comes through reading the books, of course, that we have. Master said he put his vibrations in Autobiography of a Yogi, maybe listening to a talk. And behind that talk, I heard many times people say in Gurgaon at Swamiji's talks that, oh, he answered all my questions. I don't have any more questions. Because if you listen behind, and if you hear, God and gurus are always guiding us. When you go on pilgrimage, you go to Babaji's cave, you feel Babaji's blessing there, don't you? You go to Lahiri Mahashayaji's house, you go to Master's home, you go to Sri Rampur, you go to Raigat Lane. There are blessings that you feel that are coming to you. And that's a transference from the masters. And so as Swamiji said, it's not sitting you down and saying, now, this is what I want you to do. This is where you're going wrong. This is your problem. I want you to change in this way. I think the time that I spent with Swami Kriyanandaji, with him directly guiding me in all these years, decades, I would add it up to about 15 minutes. It just isn't the way that Master taught. And also, once we are in attunement, then we find that guidance is there in our lives. Ideas come, inspiration comes, thoughts of what to do, how to do. I remember once Swamiji told me when I was leaving my service in Italy, he said, now I want you to do this, go to Africa. And I thought, geez, Africa's big. What am I supposed to do in Africa? And he said, some students are writing from there. You'll get the letters and go. That was it. There was no mailing list. There was no instructions. There was no money to go. There wasn't one person's name who could house us. But that's how guidance goes. It has to be within yourself. And so tuning in on a deep level, and then also acting. As you act, you get more in tune. As you act, you feel more inspired. As you act, you feel more uplifted. As you act, you feel the thoughts, the vibrations, the super conscious awareness of the masters, and you know which way to go. Now, in Swamiji's life, as he said, Master, he gave a hint here and there. And interestingly enough, I heard that when Swamiji gave advice here I'm at Ananda Village in the Hermitage, people would go in and they would ask his advice, and they'd come out and they would say exactly something different than what he said. So even if you get the advice and guidance outwardly, are you able to hear it really? Are you able to follow it? So when Swamiji was new, he came to Master. Master told him to do many things that he didn't really know how to do. First, he had him go and give a talk. He was 22 years old. He had been there maybe 8 months or so, and maybe it was less. And he sent one of the monks to Swamiji and told him he wanted him to go and give a talk on Master's behalf. Besides that, he wanted him to give a Kriya initiation. And Swamiji had never given a talk, and he'd never given a Kriya, never been at a Kriya except for his own. But Master worked through him. He guided him how to give the talk, how to give the Kriya. We have to realize that this guidance is ever there. Then he told Swamiji to work on the Bhagavad Gita, work like lightning and don't change a word. Now, what kind of instruction is that? Swamiji didn't know what to do, but he inwardly got an attunement. He felt what Master wanted him to do. And he said to Master later, he said, Master, you meant don't change a thought. Isn't that so? And Master said, yes. But this is how he guided him. And he told him to organize the monks. He didn't give him any example or any idea of what to do, but he knew that he could work through that disciple. And that's the most important thing, that if we're open and receptive, then we know which way to go, what to do, and so forth. And finally, also listening and knowing that the master is guiding us and telling us the way to go, following his instructions from the books, from the lessons, from the talks, from the satsangs, from everything that you are able to attune to. And I was thinking of a couple of wonderful stories. There was one of about the many wonderful stories. I was just in seclusion myself and reading. There's so many wonderful books that we have to read with guidance and instructions and stories. And I was reading one about Lahiri Mahashaya, where there's some fantastic stories about Lahiri Mahashaya. I don't have time to go into many of them tonight, but one was he had 2 women disciples, and of course they loved their guru, and they had a photograph of him that they had, and they said, they were so happy to have that photograph. And he said, well, if you deem it a photograph, that's all it will be. If you deem it a protection, we can add to that guidance and help, then that's what it will be. So one day they were studying at this table. They had the picture of Lahiri Mahashayaji there, and there was lightning. It was a storm and lightning all around. And they thought that the lightning would come and strike where they were sitting. But they kept praying to Lahiri Mahashaya. He was there. He was their guru. He was guiding them. And the lightning did strike near them, but they were just fine. And it's a wonderful thing to think that our gurus are always there. They're always helping. They're always guiding, always with us. The final wonderful story is about Babaji. And in this life, in particular lifetime, he had a disciple, not a disciple, but he had a servant, a male servant who was helping him. And the servant, for some reason, I can't really make out, he went to see an astrologer instead of asking Babaji. So he went to the astrologer, and in that lifetime, this person was Shankara. And so he went to the astrologer, and he said, he read his chart, and you see this with a lot of people. This person told me this, or this psychic told me that, or whatever. And so he went to the astrologer, and Shankar said, oh my gosh, this is terrible. You're going to die tonight. I see it here in your chart. And the man went back, and he went back to Babaji, shaking probably. And he said, he told me that I'm going to die tonight. And I just love the story, because Babaji said, go back and tell him. It's not going to happen. You got to know the guru is above all of these people who are trying to guide you in one way or another. And he said, go back and tell him. It's not going to happen. And the man went back, and he said, it's not going to happen. And Shankar looks at the chart again. He says, no, I'm sorry. This is going to come forth tonight itself. This is such a bad karma. And he said, if this doesn't happen, I myself will go to your guru and receive initiation. And so the man goes back. He must have been a disciple on some level. He goes back, and there's a big storm that whole night, and lightning striking everywhere all around them. And it's such a beautiful story, because it is said that Babaji spread himself over the body of the servant. He must have been his disciple on some level. All night long, he protected him. All night long, he was with that disciple. And when you feel like, oh gosh, nobody even hears my prayer, nobody's guiding me, I don't know what to do, I don't know which way to go, my problems are so great, just think of that story. All night long, Babaji laid on that disciple and protected him. In the morning, the man gets up and he goes back over to Shankara and he says, here I am. Here I am. And he said, I'm coming with you to take Diksha from your guru. He must be very great. And Master said that's how Shankara took initiation from Babaji. And let us remember that, those beautiful stories, that the guidance, the protection, the grace, the blessings of our gurus, it's always there. We just have to keep the door open, keep receptive, keep longing, keep wanting to have their blessing and their guidance there with us all the time. I'll ask Nitendra to join now with the questions that we have for tonight.
Thank you so much, Dhyanaji, for sharing the wonderful stories. The first question we have today, Dhyanaji, is how do I know that I have made the right decision based on the attunement that I have?
Yeah, well, take one step at a time. I've heard many people say, oh, I've got the guidance. Oh, I know the way. And I doubt it. I mean, I've tried it myself. There's so much of what I want to do, what I think is best for me. What about me? And not enough about what does God want? What does Guru want? Am I able really to do what they want? And so Swamiji guided us in this. He said at the spiritual eye, ask the question that you have. What is the answer to this difficulty? Which way should I go? What about my children's health or whatever it is? Ask from the spiritual eye. And then he said, and then feel in the heart center, God's response. You may not hear it in the first day or feel anything. It may take some time. But then the third part of that, which hardly anybody does, first ask, feel, act. I mean, do something, do anything, but take the first step in the direction that seems right. And then if that feels right, then take the next step in that same direction. Sometimes you have to go right. Sometimes you have to go left. Sometimes you're completely going off. And I've seen people, they keep going the same way, then they're gone off the path because they did what they wanted to do. And so you don't really know. I asked people, I still ask people, why am I here at Ananda? For my own attunement, to spend time with Jyotish and Deviji, to be with my peers, to ask questions. This is important, not to feel like you're on your own, you know everything, you've got it all laid out. I would say beware and really consult others who may know more than you know. And here's another thing I'll say, take time alone. Now, I know this is hard. I've given this advice quite a lot, but take time by yourself so that you can still the thoughts, still the restlessness, still the anxiousness, still the anxiety and the worries and the fears and the doubts, and all those things are just crowded all around you all the time. And I was, as I said, I just came out of a seclusion and I didn't look at one WhatsApp. I didn't go on any social media. I didn't look at one email. I didn't look at any news. I meditated. I had time with God. I read the spiritual books and I meditated. I had a wonderful time. But how many people want to do that? No. Even do half a day, do a whole day, then add another day. But some people never do it. And they don't even really have an excuse. And so I would say one way that you can get guidance, be more quiet. I had 6 days of silence. What bliss. Nobody talking to me, and I didn't talk to anybody but God. Take the time and you'll find there's so much guidance all around. Did ideas come? Did inspiration? They were just flowing. Do this. This is what you want to do. This is the answer to that difficulty. This is the answer to that problem. But if you never take the time, you're always sort of, is that right? You're worried because you're not on firm footing. You need a firm base to be able to get clear guidance and not just looking at a smiling picture of Master saying, he's saying I'm doing the right thing. So take the time, be quiet, listen, feel, ask inwardly, Master, what do you want? What should I do? Babaji, Larry Mahashaya, ask them. You'll start getting some very clear answers.
Thank you so much, Dhyanaji, for the practical advice. The next question, Dhyanaji, is, if I go wrong in a wrong direction and if I leave the path, will the Master help me to come back?
I think that's up to you, isn't it? I mean, like Master said of Quran, I lost sight of you for many lifetimes, but I won't lose sight of you again. And Senior Quran kept saying to Master, please don't lose sight of me. The way Swamiji explained that was that it was Quran. It wasn't the Guru, but Senior Quran lost sight of Master and the path. He had many other things he wanted to do, obviously. So I can tell you my story. After I left for 3 years, trying to go back to what I was doing, and I was going to another organization with Master's teachings, but it just wasn't mine. And then I was barely meditating. I remember a picture of Master, my room house, fell off the wall, the glass cracked. I just thought, God, I'm really in trouble now. My mala broke, all the beads fell on the floor. I knew I was in trouble, but I couldn't help myself. And then, but I loved Master, and I just kept talking to him inwardly. I'm just barely hanging on by a thread. And after 3 years, I heard his voice. Not outwardly, but I finally could hear inside, just go back to Ananda. That's your home. And I did. And I thought nobody would recognize me. Nobody would remember me. I'd sneak in and sneak out. And Master had different plans. You're the girl who was here 3 years ago. And I had to come back. But why did he bring me back? I wanted to come back. I wanted God. I loved Master. So it's up to the disciple, isn't it? You want it? Master said, God will never let you down. But we let him down a lot, don't we?
We are glad that Master told you to come to Ananda Dhyanaji. And we hope he tells you to come back to India as well. And
He's telling me, actually, I'm leaving on Monday. I'll be back next week. I think, Nitendra, you're the voice of Master.
One last question, Dhyanaji. I don't feel competent in some things that are asked of me through service to Master's work. I want to do more, but how can I prepare myself for it?
Well, we have a lot of training programs, don't we? Yoga teacher training, meditation teacher training, sharing the teachings, living discipleship, sadhaka program. I would just get in as many of those programs as you can. Get training. Don't sit on the sidelines and hope that somebody's going to pull you aside and train you individually. Just get in there and say, I want to do this. I want to learn how to be a meditation teacher. I want to learn how to teach yoga. Not from ego, but I want to help share Master's teachings. And more than teachings, let's face it, we're sharing his vibrations, his love and joy. And who can't do that? You can do that with a smile. You can do that by greeting the people who come to the satsang, by saying hello. You can do that by praying for people online. Isn't it so? There's so many ways. And so, but I think it's a good question. Get involved. As you get involved, as you start acting, guidance more and more clearly comes to you. If you're passive, God can't even get to you? Nobody can help you. But as soon as you start acting, the energy's flowing, the magnetism's flowing, the joy is typically flowing, And then I just find so many thoughts come and ideas. And Master said thoughts are universally rooted, not individually. And so you just are picking those thoughts out of the ether because you're so magnetic and uplifted and in an uplifted state of mind. So do get involved, do serve, do find a way that you can help, and you will find that who's really doing it anyway? Master's behind your thoughts, your singing, you're playing the violin or the tabla or whatever it is, or giving the Sunday satsang. It's Guru's energy. And that's what we really want, isn't it? God bless all of you. And thank you, Natendran. I want to ask my friends, please, I'm embarrassing them again. Please come because they've been helping me. I think we've done 4 or 5 classes. And these wonderful acharyas here and dear friends of mine have been with me every week. I just want to thank them.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Dhyana, for coming and visiting us.
Thank you. God bless you all. Bye-bye.